Tep, and welcome to Matters of Diversity with Dr. B. I would love to bring in our guest today from the UCF Athletics Department and our Vice President of Director of Athletics, Terry Mohajir. He came here to UCF in February on the 8th exactly, and he's most recently spent 8 years at Arkansas State University as the Vice Chancellor for Intercollegiate Athletics. Terry's accomplishments at Arkansas State included 4 Sun Belt Conference football championships, bowl game participation in all 8 seasons, and during his tenure, he also was the Red Wolves also brought in 25 different conference titles. And so here he is, he's coming here, and he was also a football player. He was a starting safety at Arkansas State. And so we get a chance to talk with him a little bit about this, recognizing that it's Women's History Month, but he's going to tell us what's happening in athletics here at UCF, especially as it relates to UCF's women and the teams that we have. So thank you and welcome to Matters of Diversity. How's everything going?
Dr. B, man, glad to be on.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I like that energy.
Hey, so speaking of women's history, so my first thing I got to do today was wake up and greet our young ladies getting on the bus to go to San Antonio for the NCAA women's tournament. How about that?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it was great seeing them. I tried to get them to get up earlier so I could take them all to breakfast. They weren't having that. They wanted a little extra sleep. Okay, so they were greeted with some people from Chick-fil-A to put a little breakfast sandwiches on the way, and they were heading to the charters and heading to San Antonio. And even though it's really fantastic, it's a little challenging this year because the experience is going to be a little different because of COVID. So they have to test and then they have to quarantine and wait for the results. So it's going to be a little more challenging. And their game is on Monday at 4:00. We're going to do a watch party in the arena.
Excellent.
Celebrate our ladies.
Very nice. So they're 10th seeded or 7th seeded?
10th seed, and they're playing Northwestern.
Northwestern, and they are playing in what region?
I can't remember which region it is.
Was it the Riverwalk or was it the Alamo?
Honestly, I can't even remember.
Yeah.
The regions didn't really mean because they were all in. I can find
all the games are being played in San Antonio.
San Antonio, yeah.
So regardless, what region?
But you're right. They're still doing regions based on brackets. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not. They're just calling them. They're just calling them different names, not necessarily regions. They're just.
That really now makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense now because I was trying to wrap my head around why were all these teams going in to Texas, and so now I get it.
So the ladies are going to San Antonio for the tournament. They'll be there the whole time.
The whole time.
And then the guys are going to Indianapolis.
Nice. So it's almost like what they did with the NBA, where they tried to house them so that they can stay in the bubble. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, probably not quite as restrictive, but pretty close.
Okay.
Because I'm not even going to go, and I usually go because I had to be in part of that testing protocol. That means I can't go. I couldn't come. I had to start today, and I needed to be here for work.
Right.
A bunch of stuff, and I had to start the testing protocol for Monday's game. And then if I get there, I can't even be around the ladies or go to the court. I have to just sit in the stand. So
yes, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. So when you think about women in sports, especially this being Women's History Month, what do women bring to at least collegiate sports?
Well, it all started for me from women's sports. I actually told our women's soccer coaches, Tiffany, yesterday. It means a lot to me because when I was a kid, they didn't really have a lot of women's sports. Okay. I'm 50, born in 1970. And so the little girls used to play on the guys' teams.
Yes.
The little boys' teams. Mm-hmm. So my first real taste of women's sports was my teammates. Actually, when I was a little kid playing soccer, I had a couple girls on my team, right, and they were good players. So the respect that I had for women's sports, actually, believe it or not, started at a young age because of experience. because they're your teammates and you passed the ball to them and they scored goals and they dribbled and they were tough and they got knocked down, they got up. Right. And you know what? So I'm still actually a huge women's soccer fan today. And that's probably dates back to when I was in kindergarten, just because of the people that I participated with.
You know, the beauty of what you're just bringing up right now, I think, is the fact that, you know, it allows us to recognize that we put these labels on students and kids and everyone else, more so than actual adherence to playing in a game or being a part of that narrative. And so when you think about diversity and inclusion, I mean, that states it right there.
Well, that's a great point. And, you know, the term, you play like a girl. Well, in my world, girls were good. So, you know, they played soccer and, you know, that never resonated with me. Yeah. I looked at athletes as athletes and people that are highly competitive people. Mm-hmm. I don't care what your gender is. Can you compete? Can you help me win?
Nice.
You know, and that's, you know, that's why I have, you know, I love watching our women play sports. It's beautiful. It's just really cool seeing young ladies grow up and develop just like I did as a student athlete. And I've seen a lot of, well, this is a whole other thing, but through sport, think about what sport has done for the youth of America. Yes. You know, mm-hmm. And whether you are female, male, whatever it may be, think about the discipline, the structure you've had. And without sport, you know, unless you're in musical theater or band or whatever, mm-hmm. not having structure is always can potentially be problematic for people.
Right.
And so the youth of America and the structure of sports has been tremendous. And, you know, and when you get to the collegiate level, besides the GI Bill, in my mind, there's never been a better scholarship program for the youth of America that have grown up to go to college to get educated than intercollegiate sports.
Yeah.
And we see it every day. I get to look out my window to see the beautiful trees and everything and get to see these young ladies and young men get an opportunity to compete at the highest level, but most importantly, to get an education, get a degree, and change their circumstances for life through sport. Exactly.
Well, that's beautiful. So you made a very difficult decision and you came to UCF. You've been here now several weeks, and how's life for you now that you're starting to kind of settle into the UCF experience?
Well, just, you know, the transition's always challenging. Your family. I have a high school senior, so she's graduating, so she's back in Arkansas right now, and just trying to sell houses, trying to get everybody moved, trying to find a house. And as you know, it's a tough time to find a house right now. The housing market, everybody loves their houses right now in Florida, don't they?
Well, they have to, right? That's one of the reasons why I like HGTV. I'm watching, looking at all the different things that I can do with my current house as opposed to trying to find.
So the interest rates are, you know, is really good, and so, you know, it's a challenge to find houses, and as you and it's a great place to live, and people are gravitating here from the north and the west, and they want to live in Florida. So houses aren't even on the market. So it's just a transition, and trying to, you know, my transition was a little different because you basically, my first day on the job, I'm hiring the highest profile coach. And so then you spend the next 10 to 15 days just trying to help him with his staff. Right. And then you haven't really even started. So now I'm going back to my staff, my evaluation, the organization, of how I am used to operating, but also, you know, evaluating what's really working well, because you don't want to come in just because I've operated a certain way in the past doesn't mean that it's not better here. So I'm looking at what's really working well and trying to keep those systems in place, and then just trying to meet people like you and people, leaders of this campus, and student body government, and all the different folks that I'm just trying to make as many friends as possible.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job of that, and you surely come off as like I'm just waiting for the day. I think we got a meeting coming up next week or so, but we're just going to get a chance to hang out and
Yeah.
get to know each other a little bit better. So I'm excited about that. But the pandemic has been interesting, and so now you've had these types of roles working with athletics. In good times, I would say that's when we were able to go out and do anything and have stadiums filled and things along those lines. And now, in a pandemic, uh, what was that transition like for you? What did you have to do in your mind to kind of wrap it around the fact that students weren't going to be able to do this, athletes had to be safe here? What was that transition like?
It was challenging. And March 12th, I'll never forget it. I got that call. And everything kind of shut down in our world for intercollegiate and our students. The toughest part about it, first and foremost, was our young people, and especially the populations that I oversee, the student athletes, have been playing sport since the time they can't remember. I mean, they've been playing sports their whole lives. I mean, they can't remember the last time they haven't played sports, is what I want to say. And all of a sudden now it just stops.
Yeah.
Think about that. You can't work out. You can't go to the gym. You can't use the weight room. You can't pick up a ball. You can't go shoot baskets. You can't go out of the playground. You can't do anything. It just stops.
Yeah.
So the anxiety of that, the mental health side of that was challenging enough. Then you morph that into the national media and working with just all the data that you were getting about what's going on in the country and the people that were getting sick and who was dying, all that stuff. And then to compound, the national sports writers were calling ADs. And I was one of them because we were one of the first teams to play in the country. Was how does it feel to kill these athletes?
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, no, it was tough. It was heavy. And I said, well, show me the data. Then, I'd call my medical professionals and my CEO of hospitals and people and, get different, like, nah, don't listen to that. So then working with the parents, not dealing with them. The parents are great. One of the first thing I did was I brought all the student athletes and the parents, and I brought medical professionals on these Zoom calls to say, let's ask the questions. I want you to feel comfortable. And then if a person got COVID, that was another set of issues, because everybody's saying if you get COVID, you're going to die. Well, in our particular population, most of them they had COVID. They weren't even symptomatic.
Right.
They were testing positive. Now that strand kind of changed where early June, they were testing positive, no symptoms, to September, they were testing positive and they were getting symptoms. So dealing with the stress of our student athletes when they were having troubles, achy breathing, they just never knew. And then the thought of quarantining for 10 days with only your own thoughts by yourself in a room by yourself.
Right.
It was another whole set of challenges.
There was not enough information coming out as to what was happening to you.
Yeah.
You're like you're sitting there in a room, not able to talk with anyone, isolated in such a way that you can kind of, that's what you brought up a really good point. The mental health aspects of that, and especially for someone who's growing into their maturity, right? Student athletes are still in the stage of development, in the real sense of how they become adults, and then they're dealing with those types of things.
100%. And then the family's calling, saying worried about their children, rightfully so, really worried. I got COVID in September, and I know my dad's 84. He called me every day. He thought I was going to die. So, thank God. I mean, he was very concerned. I mean, literally, because he's old school. He reads all the, the papers and the national news. He reads, gets the news. And I had relatives all over the world calling me thinking something was going to happen to me. I was, I'm fine. I'm good. Right. And so he was worried to death. And so compounding that with, whatever the population would be, some of our diverse population was more at risk. We have, I was really concerned about some certain students that had sickle cell that was even more adverse.
Right.
And so we really monitored them even more. So even within your own population, you had a subpopulation that you're even more concerned about.
Right.
So
this is the thing that's really important, that people don't understand the layers.
Yeah.
The ripple effect of all of this. And I'm sorry to hear that you had to go through that.
Well, I didn't want anybody else to do it.
I had a sister who also was going through it and was hospitalized twice.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with her the first time she was in the hospital, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my sister. Because she really,
she was okay.
Oh, she's good now. She's good now. But it was like, you know, it made me recognize how serious this is.
Yeah. Well, I felt very lucky. I never had a fever. I never had sore throat, never had headaches. I was real achy for about 3 days.
Yeah.
But if it would have happened to me a year prior, I would have gone to work. So I was very lucky. Yeah. So I just was kind of achy, you know, like I had the flu or a cold or something like that, which I usually don't get. But now some of our student athletes, I canceled 2 games just based on my conversations with student athletes. I would meet with them. I say, how you feeling? Yeah, I'll be fine by Saturday. No, that's not good enough for me.
That's not what it is. Right.
No, that's not. No, you'll be fine by Saturday to play. No, if you're not good today on Wednesday, we're not playing Saturday.
Right.
And so those are, I mean, and I actually had a couple of student athletes that send me texts or call me and say, you know, I really appreciate you canceling the game because I'm not sure I could have played.
Shows concern. It shows that there's more than just you getting out there and playing a game. We have to be really responsible with who we have stewards over, right?
Yeah. So it was it was definitely challenging. Still is. You're still, you know, still working through it today. And, you know, I'm very hopeful that, you know, with everybody getting their vaccines and working through it and maybe some herd immunity, that we're going to be back to normal. So I
can't wait. I got my first vaccine. I'm ready.
Good for you.
Ready to go. And so
I'm fully vaccinated, by the way. I was by almost the end of January.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I wish I was at that point, but I'm getting there. On the 28th, I'll have my second. And then I have to wait, 2 weeks afterwards, and then all those things come into play. So,
the good news is I'm out of the testing protocol over here.
Okay.
So so that's good because the new CDC recommendations. So that's kind of nice. Excellent. So you and I will be able to hang out even more without masks when you get it.
That's what they say. We might have to, you know, you and I might have to be the ones that go out and have that little distancing 4th of July thing or something.
Yeah.
We'll figure it all out. So. Just to bring it back to sports real quick, in the news recently, there was this announcer for a women's basketball team, high school tournament that was in Oklahoma. And he dropped the N-word on a hot mic about the young ladies who were kneeling for the national anthem, and had a few things to say. Came out later saying a couple of different things about excusing away in some regards what was going on, and then, you know, having a statement that came out talking about not being a racist and that you know, he was sorry for the, you know, if it offended or whatever have you. You know, that whole spiel that people do when these types of things come up. Where in your mind does racial tensions and diversity and inclusion play into sports?
Well, well, first of all, that's terrible, and he can be remorseful, but it's still no excuse. And realize and you know, having a diverse background and having been in a locker room, I feel like in my mind, this is me talking, not me personally, that the most safest diverse environment is a locker room.
Yeah,
it really is. I don't, you know, you might see that we look different and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you really are brothers, and we're very close. You eat, you sleep, you roommate, you shower in the same, the same facilities and all that stuff, and you're traveling together. And you know, I would tend to say that most athletes, and a lot would say that they don't. Obviously, they recognize there is diversity. Right. There is economic diversity, you know, depending on where you're from. Mm-hmm. But the accepted cultural backgrounds, mm-hmm. economic backgrounds, you know, is, to me, again, this is me. Yeah. I have felt over the years as a former player and coach, some of the safest environments I've been around.
And I think, one of the things that you made me think of when you say that, I think about how the Army talks about them coming together, because they are living, breathing together throughout all the experiences that they're having. And so one of my things is that when you touch someone, when you actually have the ability to be in spaces with others, those stories and narratives that people tell you, you start to question them, because you're like, wait a minute, I heard that I should be fearful of this person because of this, or I should be worried about this because of that. And when I sit here and I have this conversation with someone who has been told to me to stay away from, or that this is a taboo subject to talk about, I find that those stories don't ring true.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of, I think, the sports, right? Is that, we are brothers and sisters and others in this experience, because really what's happening here is we're growing together. We are creating a community together. And how do we deny a part of ourselves when, together as a collective, we go forth and we do what we need to do in the name of sport?
For sure. And, I remember having many conversations about race and diversity with my teammates. And it was 100%. That's probably why I'm doing what I do today.
Okay.
Honestly.
Excellent. Well, we're glad of that.
Yeah. And so, just the fact that when my teammates would tell me they're from, let's just say the Delta of Mississippi. I had teammates from the Delta, Mississippi, dirt floors, everything like that. Athletics, they talk to me about their upbringing and why I'm doing what I'm going to school because I got a football scholarship, so I'm a good football player. But I'm going to get a degree and I'm going to get a job, because you know what? Because what the sport has done for me and what this locker room is doing for me, it's allowing me to change my environment. But guess what? Guess what? My degree is allowing me to change my circumstances for life. For life. Yeah. And I get to break the cycle.
Yes.
Break the cycle. And you know what? I'm telling you, that's why I do what I do today.
Yeah.
And being able to see my teammates with the diverse backgrounds, and we've seen that where they say, hey, take 2 steps back or take 2 steps forward. We've seen all that. My teammates, there's no question. I had a head start of where they are, but you know what? That didn't bother them because they're competitive. They knew they could still get to the same place I was, even though I maybe had a head start, because I had a car. Maybe my teammate didn't have a car, I had a car that I brought to college. My teammate didn't. But you know what? He was going to make sure that he did what he was supposed to do so he could get a car.
Exactly.
So we learned that, and I learned that from the diversity. And I learned that from my teammates.
Yeah.
I learned more in the locker room than I've ever learned, that any of us will learn from, and just me, from any diversity training, because you don't live it every day. You may take an hour, seminar, or you do it, but when you're around your brothers every single day.
You allow that to feed you. And then that is you taking solace and understanding what's happening in the world around you and the people who are around you. Listen, I know that we're running short on time. You have a meeting you need to get to. So
we'll do this again. This was fun.
We'll have to come back and actually engage in a full-fledged one when things settle down for you. We'll come back and we'll talk. But I'm looking forward to our meeting on the 1st. I think we're meeting on the 1st, and so
fantastic.
Looking forward to that. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Have fun in your meeting coming up, and we'll talk soon. All right.
All right, Doc. Thank you, man.
No worries. Thank you. And so thank you all for being a part of today's podcast. We will meet with Terry again in the near future. We have some situations coming forward with our new podcasts that are coming through on this Friday. We have Dr. Magdalena Pasirica. And so I'm sorry I said that incorrectly. She's from Women's Health, and she's going to be talking with us about what women can do. We're going to round out this month with some heavy hitters when it comes to how women are kind of experiencing their own health in terms of the things that are going on, especially with the pandemic and the things that are happening in our communities. And so with that, thank you. We have just a few more days this month that we're going to hit, but I want to thank the UCF Foundation Office for supporting us, and thank you all for being a part of our podcast. So we're out. Thank you.